Hello class. So today I'm going to be showing you how to use the string methods and loops. So first I'm just going to be starting with string. Now there are a few crucial things that you need to know when you first start using strings. And the first thing here, I'm going to be showing you a class that I made. To start out using any kinds of strings, you're going to want to import java.lang.string, as you can see here. This is going to be very crucial in making any sort of string classes, since this allows you to use all of the different string parameters and all sorts of things. So now, once you want to start using a string, you're going to want to initialize your strings. There are a few ways you can do it, but the most straightforward way is to just say string, with a capital S of course, and then the name of the variable you want to use. For this case, we're going to be using str1, and then you want to do equals, and then in double quotes, what you want the string to be equal to, and of course a semicolon at the end. This will initialize the string variable and allow you to use a string later within the class. So here, you can see that we are using some methods that you might want to use when working with strings. For example, the string food, which has nothing here, as you can see, it's just a quote, a blank quote area with no actual value to the variable. However, when you take food is equal to str1 plus str3, this is taking cheese, the string, and burger, the third string. And this is concatenating them together, or simply just adding them into a single string. This right here is making food, string food, now equal to cheeseburger, because you're combining cheese and burger. However, right after this, since it prints it, then you have the exact same thing with str2 and str3. So you just get hamburger, and that would make it another concatenation of two different variables. And it allows food, the string that had originally no value, to now have two different values at different points throughout the class. The next method is string length. Right here, we initialize variable num1 and use str1.length. This will allow us to get a value for num1, which is the length of the characters in str1. As you can see, it is cheese, and that should equal 6. So let's check if that equals 6 afterwards. Again, here, character at str2. So it's str2.character at. And it says, since the parameter is 1, it'll be asking what the character at 1 is. Now, an important thing to keep in mind is when dealing with any method other than length, you'll get the second letter when going with 1. This is because the first character within the string is counted as 0. Therefore, this should print A, because the second letter of ham is, of course, A. The next thing here is the food.indexOf. IndexOf will give you back the value of the string that is being used here. Since str3 is the third string here, the index of it is, of course, 3. So let's see if that prints 3. So now it should print the int place. So these three are all very crucial string methods that you're going to be using regularly. Out here, we're going to be creating a new string. Hello, Mr. Young. So we're going to be using this in several different ways. The first one is to make it lowercase. By using the name of the string, word, and then two lowercase, we'll print out this string right here, but with all the characters that are capital becoming lowercase. String B, word to uppercase, will do the exact same thing. But of course, instead of making it lowercase, it will make all the lowercase letters in the string into capital letters. And then finally, for substring, what substring will do is it will return a string of where the letter is, keeping in mind that the first character is, of course, 0. So, when it says that the substring is 6, that should make it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this should print out a capital M, if I'm not mistaken. And finally, for the substring of 1, 8, this will give you an entire string between the character at value 1 and the character at value 8. So that should start at E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we should get something that says something like, "Hello, mister." Kind of strange. And it should print that out afterwards. The last two methods that we're going to be using is the two different kinds of equals methods. And these can be used very much in if and in different kinds of loops, which we'll be going over after strings. So if you make some new strings, let's say lowercase blue, capital all blue, and orange. If we say if color 1 is equal to color 2, then it'll print them equal to each other. However, this is not going to happen. This will not go off because color 1 is not equal to color 2. It is case sensitive, and seeing how blue and blue, capital and lowercase obviously, are not equal to each other, this will not print anything. However, because color 1 dot equals ignore case color 2, this if statement will work. And this is because the equals ignore case is not case sensitive. So you can type blue with all lowercase, you can type blue with all uppercase, or a mixture of lower and uppercase. Equals ignore case does not care if you use upper or lowercase, and will just check to make sure that the characters are the same. And so this should print color 1, blue, is the same as color 2, blue. So let's find out. Let's see if all my predictions are correct. So as you can see here, I believe completely correct. Let's go back and scroll through everything. So yes, the beginning is cheeseburger and hamburger. We got 6A and 3. Yeah, let me move that over a bit. So yes, we did get 6A and 3. We did get M. Oh, so I did actually make a mistake here. Let's try to figure out what happened incorrectly here. Okay, so I made a little minor mistake, and in fact, when you use substring with just one number, it actually prints everything past that character. So I was right about starting at capital M, but it's supposed to print all of it, so it should say just Mr. Young. LO Mr. is the next one, of course, and I just want to apologize for that mistake, but let's move on. And as you can see down here, I was correct about the blue. So it's not going to print the equals, but it will print the one that says is the same as. So as you can see, equals ignore case worked as expected, and luckily I was correct about this one. Okay, so onto loops. There are 3 different kinds of loops that you should know. 2 that are very similar and 1 that is very different. So the first loop that you should know when you first start working with loops is the while loop. Now the while loop is the first one here. So what a while loop's format looks like is this right here, while and then some parameter, and as long as that's true, it will perform the function inside of the loop over and over as long as this statement in the parameter stays true. So right here we set our num1 value to anything. When this method runs, we set our num1. When this method runs, we set our num1, and so forth. So right here, as long as num is not equal to 0, and as long as it's greater than 0, then it will print this every single time for the amount of time that you put it in. So let's say I set num1 to 5, this will print this 5 times. The way that you know this is that it'll print it, so say this should print 4 more times using while loop, and then the num value goes down by 1. And it'll say this should print 3 more times, this should print 2 more times, this should print 1 more time, this should print 0 more times. And every time, since it runs this thing right here, num minus minus, it'll make the value go down by 1. And that will make it so that the loop doesn't just go on forever and it'll crash our computer, which would be a very bad thing that we don't want to happen. So I'm going to run all of these loops at the end, but the thing that you should notice is that all 3 of these loops will perform the exact same thing. All of these loops will print out, this should print blank more times using a blank loop. So this one says using a while loop. So a do loop is the next loop here, and it can also be known as a do while loop. And the reason why it's called a do while loop is because it's so similar to a while in the fact that it literally behaves the exact same way, except for one minor difference. As you can see, I have everything here is exactly the same. This should print num minus 1 more times using a do loop, and then num minus minus. However, at the very end, I have while num is not equal to 0. So I have at the end, it says while num is not equal to 0, and do at the beginning. Now, this may look like it's just a handwriting kind of thing where, oh, do I want to write while at the beginning or do I want while at the end? However, this actually means that it checks while at the end of the loop instead of at the beginning. Now, in this case, it actually doesn't affect anything. If I could really write this program exactly the same using a do or a while loop, and it would not change the outcome whatsoever. However, in some more complicated programs, there may be a situation where a while loop or a do while loop is just not working for you, and switching to the other one is actually how you fix the issue. Keeping in mind that there are both these options available to you when trying to make a while loop can actually make some big differences. So just keep it in the back of your mind, a little spare bit of info. But moving on to the second and final major kind of loop is the for loop. The for loop is in the sense of repeating things exactly the same as while, but the way that it works is very unique. The formatting of it takes some time to get used to, but eventually you understand it. So you'll be wanting to do for, and then in the parameter area, it is broken down into 3 areas. The first part is a variable initialization area. You'll want to say int anything is equal to anything. I personally like to work with the variable I when doing for loops, but you could really do anything. And then you want to make it equal to something. Now, for most cases, you'll want to make it equal to 0 if you wanted to repeat how many times a person went in for the variable. So if you're working with num1 here and you want to repeat num1 times, you're going to want to make it equal to 0. Then make the exact same thing here, so num is not equal to I, and since I is not going to equal to 0, it's the exact same as the parameter from while. Num is not equal to 0, num is not equal to I is equal to 0. You see the point I'm trying to make. And in between each segment, you're going to want to have a semicolon. Just keep that in mind. In between each of these 3 segments, put a semicolon. And the third segment is a variable update. Basically, this part is going to run at the end of every single loop. So after it runs all of this, it will run this. So if you notice here and here, I had a num minus minus at the bottom of the code. However, here, I can just put this inside of the for loop parameters and it will do it for me, making the actual inside of the code cleaner, neater, and less lines. As you can see here, I have 5 kind of sloppy looking lines, and here I have 4 put together nice lines. So in this case, using a for loop or a while loop really did not make a huge difference. However, when working with loops that have more specified parameters, something where you want the person to be able to choose how large the loop is going to be repeating, a for loop is a lot more personalized and customized, and therefore should be used in more situations. Okay, so now we have a do loop available for us to enter something in. So let's enter a num. Let's say 5. So as you can see, it printed it exactly how we expected. It should print 4 more times, 3 more times, 2, 1, 0, and it says using a do loop. It's because we put it in 5 times, and it printed exactly 5 times. So it looped the command. It only said to print something once, but because we're using a loop, and we put in num as 5, it ran the command 5 times. Let's try it with a while loop, which should do the same thing. Alright, now we have a while loop. Let's put a bigger number. Let's try 14. Alright, so it did work out pretty well. I did get a little cut off at the end there. Let me just extend this out. There we go. So, it says that it should print 13 more times, 12, 11, and so on and so forth. So it actually looped it all 14 times, despite it only saying to run it once. If we look back at the original window, you can see in the while area, it only says to print something once. There's only one system print. But since it's in a while loop, it ran it all 14 times. So now, the last but definitely not least is the for loop. So let's write something for the for loop. How about 9? And there you have it. It printed all 9 times. You have, this should print 8 more times, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and it printed every single time because of the loops. So, as you can see, there are a lot of practical uses to using loops. You can save yourself from copying and pasting something over and over. you can save yourself from having to, you know, just overwork yourself with something that doesn't need to be overworked, and it allows for more user customization. It allows for something different to happen no matter what the user inputs for the variables. So, using your newfound knowledge of strings and loops, I hope you understand how to use these in practical situations. And yes, thank you for watching.